pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess there's a lot of people missing because it's, the first day of February and we're having our meetings. So, welcome to the February Town Board meeting of the town of Philipstown.
That's gonna make noise.
If it does, I'm going to throw it.
Okay.
All right.
It's actually Groundhog Eve.
Groundhog Eve, yes, a very big night in the Leonard household, apparently.
Everyone's invited.
I went last year. It's crazy, but well worth it. Approval of minutes. Monthly town board meeting of December 7th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
I abstain. I was absent at that meeting.
Okay, Bob, you're excused this time. Weekly town board meeting of December 20th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Special town board meeting of December 26th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Now, I'm not forgiving you on that one,
That
Bob.
was a special meeting. You had to collect taxes ahead of time, right?
Yep.
26th.
Yes.
Year-end meeting of December 27th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Reorganizational meeting of January 11th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. That was a good time, Mike. You missed it.
I know.
Monthly town board meeting of January 11th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Committee reports. Conservation Board.
Okay, Conservation Board was doing double duty over the last couple of months. Not in addition to attending their own monthly meetings, they attended in December and January 3 ZBA meetings. They're part of that. That's involving Homeland Towers. I'm sure John will talk more about that. But the Conservation Board's piece of that was the fact that the actual tower would have been within the wetlands area. It was denied based on the fact that there was potential for other areas on the actual property where the tower could have stood, and it is a standing rule with Conservation Board not to approve any structures that could possibly affect the wetlands, and it would have with the buffer if there was some available areas around it. They did provide also to the ZBA some additional comments regarding view shed and adequate property value evaluations, but of course those are under the ZBA's purview. Some things that were also discussed towards the latter part of the year and will be discussed more, especially in Continental Village, is issues we've had down there regarding septic and well separations, and we're actually going to have a discussion. I've been following a little bit of Lake Peekskill in Putnam Valley is going through naturally similar circumstances where a lot of these lakes were obviously built as summer rentals, which were fine. There are summer, when the people went in the summers. Well, they weren't used an awful lot, so therefore, obviously, the impacts to the lakes were not that dramatic. Lake Celeste, our own Cortland Lake, and so forth in our towns, because of year-round use, nitrate, which does not cling to soil, goes right straight into the lakes and causes a lot of problems. They've been looking at 4 different possible solutions to deal with algae blooms, but you have to be very careful because as they die and go down to the bottom of the base of the waterway, they start to cause problems, and those chemicals can cause you more grief than leaving it. So some of the problem is getting at actually the nitrate issues ahead of time, what's put on the lawns, pesticides, but also to take a look at clean out of septics and so forth. I know that some areas have had, like Mohegan Lake really has some serious problems. They've gone into actually looking into possibly requiring people to actually have to prove that they've cleaned out their septics every 3 years at least. So, and in this one particular case, because of the Conservation Board and Wetlands Inspector's diligence, we found a actual discrepancy between a septic and well. It wasn't far enough away, and it was brought to the Board of Health's attention, and the homeowner had to take corrective actions, but who knows how much more that could be happening. So pretty much This is an area, I believe they're looking to have a meeting. I spoke to the clubhouse president, and we're looking to have a meeting this month, and that will be further discussed as well. They also went over Hudson Highlands Reserve. The full environmental assessment was done, again, for the Conservation Board side. Obviously, the major concerns are regarding the property sits besides the Omar Pond itself, obviously, regarding the aquifer, the Clove Creek aquifer, Clove Creek waterway, obviously some critical areas that it butts up against. So those are certainly big concerns for the Conservation Board going forward with that. And obviously, Bob will probably talk more about that with because it is obviously lead for the Planning Board. Let's see now. Also, moving on to stormwater management, we've been having meetings. That's where the Highway Department, Wetlands Inspector, and myself get together. We are coming up on our annual deadline, which will be where our report will have to be submitted on March 9th. There are a number of things that we need to close out. There are some things we would like to still get on the town's cable television for educating the public. We also would like to hang some posters in the town to better educate people as well. We're going to be finishing our fourth quarter training for the Highway Department. And obviously, Carl will give us updates in regards to culvert cleanouts. We've been very lucky not to have excessive storms or rains, but we can't allow that to make ourselves complacent on it. We have to be ready for the Irenes, the major storms, and that means culverts cleaned out, especially in the areas which we're all taking a look at trying to do some GIS mapping to be able to identify where are real flood areas in this town and make sure that those areas are definitely taken care of. The more water we can hold within them, the less it's going to damage people's properties. And with that, obviously, also water quality and so forth meetings. We are as well trying to take a look at some water testing in certain areas, but that's being looked at as well from Michelle Smith's Hudson. It regards that as well. But we will try to at least test not only in our MS4 area, which is in the Continental Village area mostly, but also try to maybe take a look at areas like Fishkill Road, which had some concerns this last year. Okay, with that, the Conservation Board will meet on January 17th.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Recreation.
The Rec Commission met on Tuesday, January 29th. The financial reports and minutes were read and approved. Amber reported that the spring book will be out. Here it is, hot off the press. It was in the newspaper today. Also that the registration will open for the spring programs on March 8th. The senior luncheon will be held on February 28th, 2018. And contact the rec department at 424-4618 if you're interested in going. This weekend is also, next weekend is the Winter Carnival, and Joel Coneybear is here to give us a little update on the plans for next Saturday.
Step right up, Joel.
Stepping up. Yes, so the carnival will kick off Friday night, February 9th at the Rec Center. We're going to have a free pasta night for families starting at 6 o'clock. Following pasta, we're going to show the movie The Mighty Ducks, good family movie, gets you in the mood for ice skating in winter. And then on Saturday, festivities begin at 1 o'clock at both Winter Hill with the Hudson Highland Land Trust and at the Recreation Department off of 9D. So we'll have sledding at Winter Hill along with some other activities. I think they had yoga, hike up to the North Redoubt, and then they have a food truck there. And at the Recreation Department, we have the ice rink, which has been up and running since Christmas pretty much. And then we'll have food from B&L Deli and some other activities, including a hike from our neck of the woods as well. So that's the Winter Carnival.
Nice.
Come on out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work on
Yes.
the
Yes.
ice rink.
Joel, personally maintains the ice rink. I don't know how he's doing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Philipstown Communities That Care.
Philipstown Communities That Care met this I'm sorry, Mike. Oh. The Philipstown CTC met this week. We had a lengthy discussion about the new drug coordinator position, and with their help and guidance, we're getting closer to narrowing down candidates for that. Also, They had a lengthy discussion about vaping, which is of major concern in the schools. And hopefully in the near future, they'll be providing more information to the public regarding that. There are some webinars available, but they're difficult to log in. And I mean, we can just put them on our website and the Recreation Department's website, but it's not so easy to just click on them and see. But they're encouraging everybody to get informed about the vaping issue. They also participated in Haldane's first Family University, which was this week as well, and that was an eye-opener, shocking. Haldane, in collaboration with the Putnam Communities That Care and Cove Care, which was formerly Putnam Family Services, presented a night of awareness for people in the community regarding the drug epidemic. They had an expert, Mike McNeary, who goes around to area schools actually all over the world, and I hate to say it, shocks people with his presentation and gives the real story about, what kids are doing, the effects on the brain, how they're hiding it. He also went into the school during the day and presented to the 8th through 10th graders. So it was sort of a day of awareness. In addition, they had 2 other presentations. One was they created a makeshift bedroom where you could go in and actually see all of the different paraphernalia, like witness where kids are hiding it. So, it was quite shocking for me, and I think for the rest of the community. I was happy to see many more parents attend than usual. And, what came out of it was that we're all here and we're starting this conversation. And, we're in a very different place as a community than we were, say, when my oldest was in high school. We're talking as a community, parents are talking to each other, and I think we're on the right track. So I encourage everybody to participate in the Philipstown Communities That Care. They meet the 3rd Wednesday of the month, usually at 3:30, and the locations change. So like them on Facebook, and they provide, lots of information for awareness. That's it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Planning Board.
Planning Board. I attended the Planning Board meeting on January 18th, 7:30, Old VFW Hall. It was quite a big of a long agenda. First on the agenda was the return of escrow of the Magazzino up on Route 9. Second, there was a public hearing. Public hearing was for the Hudson Highland Reserve. On Route 9 and Horton Road is the 200-acre plus acre subdivision that's been in front of the community now for several years. There was over a dozen citizens that spoke at this meeting. Everyone was allowed to speak. Most of the concerns people had were kind of the same. Most of the people did speak, were concerned about runoff of water, water management, wastewater management, how's the construction going to be performed, what roads are going to be used to do the construction, are they going to use Horton Road for any of those types of, to bring equipment in and out. So there's a lot of concerns, but most of the concerns were around water and so forth. There was also concerns about entering and exiting Route 9, how that's going to be handled. Because they're looking to put about 24 homes up there, and also 40 horses for the equestrian center. Another big concern was how's that waste management for the equestrian center going to be handled. I know it's been addressed, but there's still a lot of concerns about chemicals, pesticides, and so forth like that that's going to be up there. So even Evan Thompson from the state, he also had a couple of concerns. The biggest thing was his water quality, how's it going to affect the aquifer and Clove Creek and all the surrounding properties of that area as well. His other concern is about cutting the trees up there, which I reported on a few months ago. There's only certain times of the year that trees can be cut up there regarding the bats that live in that are in that habitat, that area. The fire company was there. Joey Hyatt, Assistant Chief from North Highlands. He spoke and had a couple concerns. He wanted to make sure that the road was going to be big enough and wide enough to handle the fire trucks that need to come in, not just our fire trucks. As you know, when we do have a call for a structure fire, we get multiple other towns that come in. We have a ladder truck that comes in from Fishkill, and they assured us that their roads will be able to handle those types of fire trucks. Also, concerns were the dry hydrant. They're talking about putting a dry hydrant up there. As you know, it's pretty far off the ways to get water. As you know, we don't have any hydrants in much of Philipstown. So if there is a fire, that water has to be trucked into those areas. So I was concerned about that. Also, he brought up a good point. If they're going to be putting new houses up there, these multi-million-dollar houses that they're being planned for, he suggested that a good idea would be possibly put sprinkler systems into these houses. He just brought that up now, and it's not in our code to do so, but it may be a good idea if someone's going to plan on a house to have sprinkler system would be a good idea. Also, Hudson Highland Land Trust indicated that this is not a true conservation and easement, and they will not be accepting the easement. The public hearing remained open. There will be another workshop at 7 p.m. at the next planning board meeting, which is February 15th. New business, SEJE Realty, 1510 Route 9 in Garrison, which is the old CK Trucking building down there, right across from the Appalachian Market. I guess that was recently purchased. The applicant is seeking approval for additional use, light industry for a steel fabrication. It plans on keeping its single-family home that is attached to the sale building. Also, they're seeking to a limited amount of outdoor storage as part of their applications. This was considered to be a minor project and being referred to the county planning, the conservation board, and the Garrison Fire Department. A site visit was scheduled for January 28th, and a public hearing will be February 15th. So that site visit was just past Sunday. Other new business, James Copeland, 3052 Route 9 in Cold Spring, the old stone antique building, which is originally, way back in my day, was called the Dewdrop Inn. The applicant is seeking to change the use of this from retail to office space. This was considered a minor project as well, and a short EAF form would be considered. It was also referred to the County Planning, Conservation Board, and a February 4th site visit is scheduled for that location. Under old business, Lake Surprise, they were supposed to have a site visit back in January, but due to the snow that day, the site visit was rescheduled, and that site visit was just past Sunday as well, the 28th at 10 p.m. One other item on the agenda, Robert Altalk Services on Route 9, 1380 Route 9 in Garrison, which I reported on last month as well. They're going to have a public hearing at the next meeting. Meeting was adjourned at 10:30, and the next meeting will be scheduled February 15th at 7:30 p.m. But they said there's a public workshop at 7 o'clock that same night.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Zoning.
The zoning board held a special meeting on January 22nd to continue the public hearing for the proposed cell tower on Vineyard Road in Cold Spring. The ZBA closed the meeting and voted 4-1 opposed to issuing a special use permit for the cell tower. So it was rejected. There was months and months of testimony to both the Conservation Board and the Zoning Board. And the zoning board felt overwhelmingly 4-1 to not approve the special use permit for the cell tower. So I applaud them. There was a lot of work done, and a lot of finger pointing and a lot of threatening, and they stood their ground and they held their own. So I appreciate it. So
Yeah, they did an excellent job doing the whole thing. Including Paul Leclerc.
the zoning board will meet again on the 12th, right, Paula? February 12th, next Monday. Yeah. Yep.
February 12th.
Yes.
Can't wait.
And it's here instead of the rec center. So
Okay. Highway.
highway, I have that also.
Oh.
This one? Nope. Philipstown Town Board members, Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent, work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of January. Major temperature fluctuations from the bomb cyclone our region experienced January 4th to unseasonable spring-like temps with rain and fog have kept the highway crew extremely busy, keeping all roads clear and safe. Snow and ice removal work has taken up the majority of the time for the crew this month. A new broom attachment for the Bobcat was purchased, which will help the highway crew in road cleanup. The Highway Department received approximately 25 phone calls regarding road complaints and other road issues in the month of January. The Highway Department has spent roughly $7,500 in vehicle maintenance for the month of January. Above submitted by Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent.
Thank you to Carl. Building and land. Nothing right now. We'll be looking forward to,
Once the plans are complete.
yeah, and getting the windows ordered. So We'll be ordering windows for this building this month. Putnam County Legislator.
She had a conflict.
All right. Cemetery Committee.
Okay, the Cemetery Committee had some more actual phone conversations because of the snow than anything else. But again, I wanted to bring out the fact that we received the bill for the fall restorations in the Cedar Street Cemetery by stonemason John Benjamin. When you go through the details of all the work, sometimes I don't think people realize all the digging, the foundations that have to be repoured and done, a lot of cases better than they were originally because that's why they toppled. They have to be epoxied, and you're hunting for certain pieces here and there. John deserves an awful lot of credit for the work he does. That cemetery looks so much better than it did even a year or two ago. So my hat's off to him. He really does a lot of hard work there. I have been researching some cleaning and maintenance of headstones as well. I will run that by the committee this month for when the spring hits to go forward and see what's out there that's, of course, very safe to use, that can maybe be able to bring back some of the lettering on the gravestones. A lot of them, because they were laying down, now that they've been put up, they look new because they've been laying down for maybe more than 100 years. So that's kind of startling, too. If you haven't seen it, take a look at that as well. I have been working with the actual Carnival rep on the County Cemetery Committee, and both of us have volunteered to hold in our towns an actual meeting of the committees where all the towns come over, visit, and then as well go to the cemeteries and view them and be able to go over issues and so forth. So I will advise the board when that's coming up, but I hope that you will support that as well. I think we have received a lot of very good comments from the county. They're actually very envious of us for the work that we do here. So I say to our committee members, the hat's off to them. They've done a lot of work in a short time. We've only been in existence a couple of years, thanks to your starting and initiatives for it. And we've moved forward. We're also trying to take a look at the scouts or the schools to help as well for mapping. The younger people can go up and down a lot faster, and if we can get, like we did originally, we had scouts actually write down the stones and so forth and information, it will help us map a lot faster. So that's something else we're looking for. With the county, as I mentioned in the past, we are moving forward on the 501c3, which will help us for private funding. And when that comes out, obviously anything that comes in will be certainly put towards either the cemeteries overall, or if a particular family wants to donate to that particular gravestone or area, we will certainly donate it towards that. So we're really moving forward, and I'm very proud of everybody on this committee. Okay, our next meeting is February the 13th.
Thanks, Mike. And as always, that was a big initiative of Betty Budney, so I always like to give Betty
Yes.
credit for that. On to the agenda.
Okay, the first item is a resolution in support of the immediate state agency rule making for tanker avoidance zones. Now, we've passed this resolution before, but this resolution is urging the DEC to issue strict regulations that would prohibit new anchorage grounds from being sited at locations where they pose a clear and direct threat to the environment, quality of life, and regional economic development goals.
All right. As Tina said, we did pass a resolution in support of the established anchorage grounds. This one will go farther. It'll also request the DEC immediately advance rulemaking process to establish tanker avoidance zones for petroleum-bearing vessels. So, not all, but much of what we have here involves the Hudson River, and that needs to be protected at all costs. So I just think it's an awful idea to start parking oil-laden barges off of all these scenic areas. So with that, I would entertain a motion on the resolution establishing the regulations for anchorage grounds and immediately asking the DC for advanced rulemaking to establish tanker avoidance zones.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So I I made some notes on this one.
Okay.
I'll pass that down. Just if we're going to send, well, we are going to send that off since we did pass it.
Yeah, it's got to go to a bunch of places.
So we need to fill in a few blanks on that.
Yeah, I know that.
All right, thank you. And thanks for getting that on the agenda.
You're welcome. Okay, the next item is a proposed resolution calling for the release of the risk assessment related to the Algonquin pipeline crossing of Indian Point. And Paula Clare is here this evening.
Hi, good evening. I had previously sent you a packet with a letter from Sandy Galiff asking for this risk assessment to be released, the results, and also a sample resolution and a cover letter. I'm going to read a statement about this issue and why I think it's important that we consider issuing a resolution in Philipstown. 2 years ago, in February 2016, Governor Cuomo commissioned a risk assessment to study the risk of the Algonquin Incremental Market, or AIM, gas pipeline as cited at Indian Point Nuclear Facility. It was supposed to be completed within 1 year. Although numerous requests have been made, both by private citizens, organizations, and municipal leaders to obtain the results of this risk assessment, this information has not been provided. And as I mentioned, our Assemblywoman, Sandy Galiff, has written to the governor on numerous occasions and asking for the risk assessment findings, and the last one being written last month on this topic, which a copy of which you have. Since we live here near the plant, and the plant contains more than 45 years of highly radioactive spent fuel, this is of particular concern for Philipstown residents. Even if the plant is shut down in 2021 or later, this spent fuel will continue to be a danger, especially in the event of a pipeline fire or explosion, which would encompass the entire plant, according to experts. I just want to mention that pipeline fires, especially in these large transmission lines, which is present at Indian Point, are not rare. I think it was 2016, there were 3 fires of pipelines, big pipelines, crafted by this pipeline operator, Spectra Energy. So it is of concern. If there was a pipeline explosion, it would encompass the entire plant, according to experts. And if this occurred, radiation would be released over a wide area, with Philipstown being severely affected. Most of the spent fuel remains in spent fuel pools, although work has been done to place a portion of it in dry cast. Spent fuel cannot be removed from the pools for at least 3 years, and in some cases 10 years after placement there. So the spent fuel pools were going to be with us for a long time. The fear is that since the risk assessment has not been released, it may not have said that there is minimal risk. I am here tonight to ask that Philipstown consider passing a resolution, a draft of which I have provided, asking Governor Cuomo to release the results of the risk assessment for AIM at Indian Point. If this risk assessment specifies unacceptable risk, I believe that local communities should demand action to be taken to reduce this risk to a very low level, which may include such remedies as diverting the pipeline away from the nuclear plant and then reconnecting, at a distance away, or stopping the flow of gas at Stony Point to protect constituents living in Putnam, Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, and Orange counties, as well as New York City, because all these places are in the 50-mile radius that would be affected if there was a disaster. Individuals in other neighboring towns are also approaching their town boards to ask for their support in passing the same or similar resolutions. these resolutions will be submitted to the governor's office and other offices having jurisdiction over this issue. We who live here, close to the nuclear plant, have a right to know. Thank you for protecting Philipstown residents. Thank you.
So we have the sample resolution. I guess the board would want to review this, and then we'll get together. I don't have any reservations about asking for the release of the plan that was paid for with taxpayer money, so I'm not even entirely sure why that wouldn't be available, as a freedom of information.
It's been asked for there have been several freedom
Well, I'm sure it has, yeah.
and
But they-
it's not been provided.
But they're supposed to provide a reason for why not. Because I used to work on FOIAs, and when I'd have to, if I wanted to retract something or not put something out, I'd have to state exactly why I'm not doing that. And this is also not an existing, this is a proposal, which makes it even less of a security matter, I would think, because it's a proposal, correct?
No.
This new pipeline would be a proposal change only? No, I know, but I mean, it's
The
for,
pipeline is built.
yeah, I understand, but I mean, its capacity, is that explained?
No, this is a risk assessment of how much risk there is for having the pipeline
Right.
at Indian Point. It's a 42-inch, huge pipeline. It's a really big pipeline, and if there was an explosion or a fire, it would be a catastrophe, and it would render our area uninhabitable for generations. So it's, I mean, I'm not saying that the risk is great, but if there's anything more than a very, very minimal risk, action should be taken to avert that risk. And we're asking just for the results of the risk assessment, which have not been released. People have foiled this and have gotten information with 500 pages redacted, and no useful information being given.
Why we redacted so much? All right.
Anyway, we don't have the information.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Review the resolution. Again, I don't think there's going to be a problem with passing it. It should be, available to residents of New York who paid $81,265 for the report but can't see it, so that seems absurd. We also don't want to have our town become uninhabitable, so let's avoid that at all costs. So we'll work on that and adopt it.
Thank you for.
Thank you, Paula, for all your work on this over the years.
The next item is a resolution to reappoint the following to the Philipstown Zoning Board of Appeals for a 5-year term, and that's Paula Clare as a member whose term will expire March 31st, 2023.
We all know that Paula is a great member of the zoning board and always comes prepared. So it's with pleasure that I would entertain a motion on that resolution of reappointing Paula Clare to a 5-year term.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye gladly. Thank you, Paula.
Good service.
It's a photo op.
Right.
Thank you, Paula. 2023, your term expires.
You
No
get it?
parole.
Okay, the next item are resolutions to reappoint the following to the Philipstown Planning Board for a 4-year term. Anthony Moranti as chair, whose term will expire March 31st, 2022, and Neil Zuckerman as a member, whose term will expire March 31st, 2022.
Again, we're really fortunate in this town to have such qualified people serving on our boards. I know that everybody appreciates Andy Moranti's leadership on the board, and Neil Zuckerman is just a really, really solid member on the planning board. Super fortunate to have both of them, so,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just name it.
yeah. I mean, Neil is obviously eminently qualified to do just about anything. I'd take that.
Early announcement.
So with that, can I get a motion on the resolution to reappoint Anthony Morandi to a 4-year term expiring March 31st, 2022?
So moved.
So.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. A motion on a resolution appointing Neil Zuckerman on to the planning board for a 4-year term expiring March 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay. The next item, resolutions to reappoint the following to the Philipstown Conservation Board for a 2-year term. Mark Galazzo, his term would expire March 3rd, 2020. Eric Lind, expiring March 3rd, 2020. Robert Repetto, whose term would expire March 3rd, 2020. And Andrew Galler, whose term would expire March 3rd, 2020.
All right, we're going to do these as a group. Resolve the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown hereby reappoints Mark Galezzo, Eric Lind, Robert Repetto, and Andrew Galler, each to a 2-year term expiring March 3rd, 2020. Could I get a motion?
Definitely, I'll give a motion for that. They're
Thank-
great group.
Thank you, Mike. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We are, again, so fortunate to have these dedicated people who volunteer their time and deal with really, really important issues. As is evidenced by this past year, we've had a lot of serious work done by these groups. So, again, our thanks goes out to them.
Okay. Next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the agreement between the Town of Philipstown and the Putnam Humane Society for fiscal year 2018.
Something we do every year. We're pleased to have the services of the Humane Society for shelter services. And it's, it's in the budget, so it's a service we gladly pay for in the town. Could I get a motion on a resolution for the contract with the Putnam Humane Society?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing the release of escrow funds for the Garrison Cafe, Matthew and Lydia McMahon. We have a letter dated January 19th from Tara Percocello, where it says the town board meeting. A motion was made by Kim Connor to okay the return of the escrow. And Neil Tolman seconded the motion, and they are requesting the remaining escrows be processed.
All right, with that, we have the approval of planning board members and a motion from them. Could I get a motion on the return of escrow?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Next is the code enforcement monthly report. The first is from the town of Philipstown. The fees collected, $18,949. 18 total numbers of permits issued. 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings. 1 addition, alteration, or repairs to commercial buildings. 14 all other permits, pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc. 7 COs issued. 3 work stop orders issued. Inspection of public assembly, fire prevention, 5. Inspection of commercial occupancies, 3. And for January, for the village of Cold Spring, the information was unavailable.
All right, Jeff, let's get on that, all right? Was he?
He's been sick.
I saw him
guess he's-
today. I should've said
Yeah,
something
he's been
to
out for a couple of weeks, so he's back. He came back, I think, last week.
All right, well, thanks to Greg Winter, our building inspector.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay. We have a request here from Claudio. They went to get a building permit for the plaza, the Depot Theater, and the fee is $726. And they're asking that that fee be waived by resolution.
$726, I mean,
My understanding, they're doing work, and Joel, you could probably support this. They're doing work on the plaza between the building and the tracks. It's been a 2-year process getting the permits from the MTA, so, and I guess this was the last portion to get a building permit from the town, so
I better cough up the money.
I would certainly entertain us waiving them their fee for their building permit.
All right. Everybody's okay with that, I'm not. Claudio. Yeah, we should definitely support the Depot Theater, I guess. Joel, how do you feel about that? Okay. Joel says yes, I'm going with it. All right, could I get a motion waiving the permit fee for the Depot Theater Group?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Oh, boy.
Big loss.
$726. We have the public hearing coming up for the Safe Storage Act. What's the date on that again?
That's the 21st at 7:30 in our confirmed Haldane North Auditorium.
21st, 7:30.
7:30?
Yes. I will not be here next week, so I'm not going to schedule anything for next week. Does anybody have anything pressing?
No.
Between now and then? All right, shoot, well, tomorrow I have a conference call with the building inspector and Steve Gaba over the illegal dumping, so we'll see what comes of that, if we have to have a workshop to see how we're going to pursue that. But I'll let you know what comes of that and when they want to meet, because we need to come down on that hard and make sure that it gets prosecuted and people know that they're not going to get away with it, not only in this town, that they're not just going to move to the next town, because that's the sort of thing that can happen. So, had a good meeting with the mayor of Cold Spring today and Michelle Smith from the Highland Land Trust, and a representative from Scenic Hudson with regard to the Fjord Trail and trying to mitigate the impact of, and it's not only about the Fjord Trail, just about people coming to Cold Spring and all of them funneling down Fair Street. So looking at various options for things and going to have a conversation with residents in the village about what they think opportunities are. There's some opportunities that we explored today for rerouting people, and take a look at that and then get together with a larger group to see or inform them of what the options are and what their input will be. And, you know, the people are going to keep coming regardless of whether the trail goes in or not. That's pretty obvious at this point. But we are trying to maintain a certain quality of life for people in these residential streets and also, you know, keep the people safe who come here, who are wandering out in Main Street or walking down the middle of the streets as is a common practice anymore. It would be good to sort of spread them out a little more, and while at the same time trying to get them up Main Street to go to businesses and support the local shops. But there are some good options, it feels like, and well, I think we'll get there on that. So, anything else from the board?
I just want to advise people that still the royal vouchers that we have for people. We have them available again this year. I don't have many people have gotten them so far, but I just want to inform the citizens that we did implement this program again this year. So they're available. So come down to the town hall, see Tina or someone from her staff, and she'll give you one.
All right. I know the whole town sends their condolences out to the Budney family, the tragic loss of their son, Nick Budney. Just, again, heartbreaking for everyone here. And we want them to know that our hearts go out to them and our prayers are with them. Anything else from the board?
During the zoning board testimony about the cell towers, I had a conversation with the RF engineer that we had hired to represent the zoning board, Hank Menkes, and he had suggested that we implement some changes to the zoning code to preempt the 5G service that's coming down the pipe. So I reached out to him. He's putting together a proposal to meet with us either in February or March to make an adjustment or some changes to our current zoning code. So once I get the proposal back from him, I'll get it, put it together, and we'll pick a date for a workshop. So.
Yeah, it feels urgent,
Yeah.
especially after what we just went through, so.
We're in that same, you done? You done?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. In that same vein, obviously, I want to give a plug, obviously, to the comprehensive plan update people. Nancy, Bob, and myself are on those as well. They met on January 11th and 25th. They meet twice a month. They're really working very hard one woman's working on the full demographics and breakdowns and trying to update them, and that's quite a bit of work. The cell tower, we actually had one of the members and myself met a little while ago, and John joined the discussion to try to take a look, as I had mentioned, I think in the December meeting, for us to take a look, obviously, at the cell tower issue overall for the entire town. So that's one particular area they're looking at. Also zoning, the infrastructure, obviously, we know that from the Community Congress, they're looking at bike paths and so forth as well. tourism, economic development. Consolidation is a big piece that was in there that I know that Rich has obviously been working with the Board of Supervisors as well, because that could be a real potential area. But they're working very hard, and I think they need to be recognized for that. Nat Prentice is the lead of it, and he really does a good job. He really controls it pretty well. The other thing is the Climate Smart Committee. We've met a few times, obviously Karen Ertl from the Philipstown Garden Club, Roberto Muller, who was our coordinator for Climate Smart, Jason Angel also was on one of the leads for the Community Congress, and myself. We've done some discussions in regards to establishing community emissions reduction inventory. We had a meeting last Friday here between municipal and that's quite an involved process, which would be, again, taking a look at your carbon footprint, let's just say that. From obviously, it's a lot easier to start with a municipality to take a look at what we're doing. Obviously, that's highway, us. Obviously, we're from our what was called "How Green Is My Town." That's an actually evaluation that was done a few years ago. That was very good because obviously, as we see by the annex next door, we're certainly very environmentally conscious. So municipality-wise, we're certainly moving forward in those areas. Just one quick plug also, they are having a Community Eco Action Workshop on March 3rd. It's at the Desmond Fish Library from 10 to 4. There will be a number of guest speakers speaking regards to all different things, Hudson River, estuary, climate resiliency. They asked me to say a few words for what we're doing on the town level. They also, flooding from the Hudson River. We'll cover a number of areas. There's a lot of information that will be presented and I think beneficial for a lot of people. So I urge you, if you can at all, please try to make it. The snow date would be March 17th. I told them it's a bad follow-up for St. Patrick's Day, but so let's hope for no snow. And it's March 3rd, 10 o'clock, Fish Library. Please try to make it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I just have two things.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to follow up on the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, I did have a conversation with the chairman, Nat Prentice, and I think it's important that that committee is resident-driven, even though we initiated it as a town board and put it together. But Nat did want a little bit of input from the town board as to what we wanted to see, and obviously there's the cell tower issue. At the first meeting, what I pointed out was that we do have most of our land use issues covered. There are some things that need a little more attention regarding land use issues in the comprehensive plan. And that's really what a comprehensive plan is. But what I would like to see, and I told him, and you guys, I'd love to follow up with him and give your input, is this update is more socially driven. You know, what do we want to see as a community? Where do we want to go with the Philipstown communities that care? What do we want for our seniors and our teens? And it looks like that's a lot of what they're working on right now. Yeah. But he did ask that if you guys had anything, to send them a note, or if you want them to address certain thing. But again, like the Climate Smart Community and the Comprehensive Plan, I like that it's resident-driven and not so much influenced by the town board. And the other thing is that I attended the monthly Philipstown Senior Club meeting today. They were introduced to the new director of senior resources over from Putnam County. So County Executive Odell, Legislator Scuchamara, and the new director, Michael Cunningham, gave an overview and an update on Butterfield, something that we don't have any jurisdiction over, but certainly have been in support of making a space for the seniors. Apparently, and I hesitate because oftentimes with this project, what you hear isn't always what the truth is, but apparently the design is approved and the bids are going out. There was a lengthy discussion about the quality of food because when the county executive brought up wanting to work with the town board and Supervisor Shea, who's been so supportive, the question was, what do we want to see? And we spelled that out from the very beginning. We want to see nutrition, the quality of the food and nutrition improved. But the concern of the seniors is still they're building a state-of-the-art kitchen, and a good part of the meals are still being cooked elsewhere and transported. And we had felt in the past that they lose their nutritional value being transported. I spoke to Michael Cunningham, and he assured me that the quality is improving and it's just going to continue to improve. So, that's promising.
Getting worse.
I don't understand the idea of the state-of-the-art kitchen.
Yeah, but it's not going to be used. 'Cause that's
Well,
probably
it'll be
the biggest-
used because
well,
they do prepare some things there.
Bread.
So, but they had, they talked about reviewing menus from other senior centers, because what Putnam Valley likes doesn't necessarily mean what Philipstown likes. So I think they heard us. Another thing that came up was programming, and again, the town has really stepped up with providing more programming for seniors, because we weren't really getting much in the way of exercise and senior programming over here. They assured us that they would work together with us to make sure that whatever they were going to provide, and it seems like quite a bit as far as exercise classes, yoga, computers, all of that is on the table and was mentioned today, in addition to DMV and those services. So again, as I pointed out to Michael Cunningham, the new director, we don't need to wait for Butterfield to be built for these services to come here. As we said from the beginning, there is space. There's space at the recreation center to run county programs. I'm sure we could rent space at the newly refurbished VFW hall. The town actually uses space that's not ours. We use Haldane School. We use Butterfield Library. So the notion that we don't have county services because there was nowhere to put them, I don't want to wait for Butterfield to open for those seniors services to come here. I want them here now, as I said 4 years ago, when I stood before the legislature and asked for them. So I did make that point clear to the new director. Hopefully we can start seeing some programs soon, because I don't know, Butterfield will be open in the fall, apparently, and that's great news.
This fall?
This fall.
Okay.
Did they say anything about the post office? I thought that was also open like this month. Do you know,
I didn't hear when that was going to open, if
thought
that's
it was
part
supposed
of the same.
It looked like it was progressing, I mean.
yeah, I
by
thought
the
it was supposed to
signs.
open sometime in February, I was told, so I was just curious if that came up at all.
I just don't, we've been talking about this, and again, I still go to, if we're gonna provide services, we can do it now. We don't need to wait for, and the idea back then was that they didn't own anything over here. Well, they're not gonna own Butterfield either, so we have space.
Yeah,
We have wonderful spaces.
we do, and I'm going to be a senior citizen soon, so I want to
Tomorrow?
get some exercise. Tomorrow?
Oh,
That's not funny. It's not my
your birthday.
This is not
It's your
my,
wife's birthday.
maybe she's going to be a senior. Oh, I mean,
You're lucky if that's the case.
she's a good-looking senior, right? Yeah, we did meet 3 years ago to talk about the quality of the food, and we had a lengthy meeting during the day with all involved parties, and not a lot changed, so.
But, they are appreciative of our, especially Supervisor Shea's support of getting something done.
Yeah, we'd like to get some local food in, too, since we have so much of it anymore. So. Anything from the audience?
I was really glad to hear that John Van Tassel had spoken with our RF engineer and is suggesting changes. I just want to suggest a couple of changes that may or may not have come up. Our current code says that the cell tower has to be 150 feet away from residents, and I think that should be significantly increased because the cell tower that was proposed was 180 feet, so it could technically have fallen on a residence. And in addition to that, cell towers, there's been a lot of peer-reviewed studies on cell towers and cell phones, and cell towers emit radiation 24/7. And the FCC does not recognize health issues as as issues where you can reject a cell tower. It's a 1996 law; it hasn't been changed. However, the radiation, it has been linked with cancer. That ability to get cancer, and so I would like to see as large a distance as is reasonable.
We'll be having a workshop on this, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because
right.
I think that's
Thank you.
an important factor. Thank you.
Michelle?
Good evening. Michelle Smith, Hudson Highlands Land Trust. A couple of things. On the cell towers, we'd made a couple of comments on the Nelsonville one, and one of the things that we came across in that process was the Adirondack Park Agency seems to have a really good cell tower policy, as you can imagine, wanting to protect their scenic resources. I'm not sure if that's something you've looked at, the zoning board, but we recommended that the planning board look at that, even in interpreting their own code, because it had a lot of wording around substantial invisibility of the cell towers. And so I think they're well recognised as having a good cell tower policy. Another thing I wanted to mention, on February 5th, we're holding an educational forum at Winter Hill. It sort of came out of the public hearing last week at the planning board. We just got a lot of questions about what is, from the public, from residents that were at that hearing, what is the open space overlay district? What's the history of it? And if you recall, a few months ago we passed the update to the open space index that Nicole Padala had worked on, and we also got a lot of questions around conservation subdivisions. So we thought it would be a good idea to hold an educational forum. So we're going to do that at Winter Hill on Monday, February 5th at 7 o'clock. Any member of the public who's interested in this issue, including town board members, conservation board members, zoning board members, planning board members, are welcome to join. We'll just ask that people contact us and let us know that they're coming, because we're not quite as spacious as the Haldane auditorium, so we want to know how many people are going to attend. And one other thing that I think is exciting, I wanted to introduce Karen Doyle, who is our new Manager of Public Policy and Planning at the Land Trust. This is a new position at the Land Trust that we created because we do so much work with municipalities, and we're focusing a lot more also on water across the whole region. And Karen actually has a great background working for the New York City Law Department on the New York City watershed issues, and also has been very active in Cold Spring on the planning board and comprehensive planning and code update. So we're exporting her skills to Philipstown and the broader Hudson Highlands. Karen, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Thank you. I'm excited to join the Land Trust, and I do want to say, being on boards and working on these issues, it's thankless a lot of times, right? And you do a lot of work. I'll see. I'm excited to just take all of my experiences and to continue to work for our community, and to be able to do it with the Land Trust is pretty exciting. So I look forward to working with you. Good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks,
What's your
Karen.
last name again?
Doyle.
Doyle? Okay, thank you.
All right, well, we're fortunate that we'll have the availability of your resources. So, and
That meeting on Monday night, I think I got an email on that, and it asked if you can come or not. So you can see how many people are going to attend, right? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, if people, we actually sent it out in our newsletter. We sent the link today, but if people don't have the newsletter, they could just email info @hhlt.org, and then we'll add them to the list. Thanks.
I sent it out to all our boards. I think I forgot the conservation board. Can you forward it? to them? Thanks. I signed up for your, yeah.
Well, thank you. The Highland Land Trust is a great partner, and we've benefited greatly from that partnership over the years, so thank you very much, Michelle. Anything else from the audience? Okay. Vacancies, Recreation Commission, 1. Any closer to, no, huh? Continental Village Water District,
I spoke to Mike Phelan. Mike Phelan has someone in mind, so
okay,
he should be submitting it.
still,
if he hasn't
still
already.
one there.
Get somebody who knows
Yeah.
somebody.
Approval of vouchers, general,
So, second,
all in favor? I vote aye. Highway,
So moved.
second,
second,
all in favor? I vote aye. Continental Village Park District,
So moved.
second,
second,
all in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor? And I vote aye. Motion to
So
adjourn,
moved.
second. All done. Adjourned. Thank you, thanks for coming out.